Hey everyone, welcome back to Red Donkey Projections. I'm Eric and we have Lucas as always.
Hey all.
So, what we're going to be talking about today is an update on the 2020 presidential election between Trump for the Republicans and Biden for the Democrats. We thought it was necessary to make another update because of, as we all know, the recent protests that have arisen because of the death of George Floyd.
With that being said, let's get right into it. So let's start something different today. Let's start with Trump states. This
All
Trump
right.
safe states. Not really gonna make a difference, but we're gonna
And
lay out all the safes as always. So it should be.
middle of the country, and then we're going to make our way down south. We're going to talk about Nebraska's second district later.
Now let's talk about Iowa still. I don't want to remove that. Let's see. That should be all the safes. So it's Biden now. Oops. Yeah. So a lot has changed since our last projection. We decided that it was kind of necessary to revisit our predictions due to the recent events. Let's see.
New York.
Yeah, New York. We're going to talk about Maine Allstate later because we don't think it's going to be safe for the Democrats. That seems to be it for the safes. All right, let's take a look at the likely Republican states now. We have Texas is honestly between lean and likely. I am leaning towards likely on this one because, yeah, they do have a lot of Hispanics here, but I personally do think the margin will be within. Actually, I'm sorry. I mean that this is a predictive map again. It's not a percentage map, but I do personally think that although the Democrats might have a little bit of a bigger shot here than they did before, I still personally do think there is a high chance that it does go to the Republicans. So that's why I'm keeping this. Likely the same can be said about Georgia. Although Georgia, I might move to lean, actually. I think Georgia, I am moving to lean. But the reason being that they do have a lot of African Americans here, and after the recent events, they're going to go out and vote for the Democrat, Joe Biden.
These are both of the states that we actually mentioned are swinging more and more to the left. Not necessarily in this election, but maybe in the near future, like in the 2024 election, something drastic might happen. So watch out.
Correct. Maine second district actually went to Donald Trump in a solid margin. I'll go with likely here. Solid in 2016, I'm saying. Iowa is likely. Ohio is also likely. I don't think much has changed for these two states since we last did this projection. I realized I forgot West Virginia. But yeah, not much has changed in those two states. That should be it for the likely Republican states. Let's head to the likely Democratic states now. As always, we have Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada,
Virginia,
New Hampshire, Virginia, and that should be it. Oh, actually, we do want to talk about some of the states here.
Minnesota and the blue wall overall.
Yeah, Eric, you want to talk about Minnesota?
Yeah, so as we know, this is where the unfortunate Ahmaud Arbery murder, George Floyd murder happened, and it was a shock to everyone. And as we know, protesters took to the streets, and they took to the streets very aggressively. Not everywhere, but as we said in earlier videos, Minnesota is the epicenter, and it rippled out to a lot of different main cities like Tennessee, and Florida, and New York. New York was especially hit, and California. So this is showing how, because of these protests, and this is going to change the votes in a lot of states. And it might surprise you, but we're going to talk about a few states that might surprise why we chose like this. So Minnesota is a likely, you think?
Yeah, I think it was as we mentioned in the Black Lives Matter impact video, we are on the fence between solid and likely at this point. As of today, like the election, if it was held today, I do think Minnesota would be likely or solid, because again, it's the epicenter. That's where all the action's happening. They're not happy about Donald Trump's job, and they might want to vote for the Democrat. Now, the same can be said about Michigan. Michigan, I would say it's either between lean and likely. I'm going to go with lean for this one because, again, we have a lot of people protesting here as well. They have a large African American population in Michigan as well, and a lot of those people are going to go. Now we're going to head to Michigan now. Personally, I would say this is between lean and likely, honestly. A lot of African Americans are here in Michigan. We are seeing a lot of protests here. They're clearly also being kind of motivated to go and vote for the candidate they want to win, and usually it is the Democrat here, which is Joe Biden. So I do think we can move this to lean. I'm going to be honest. I think likely is a little bit too generous to the Democrats, but I do think lean would make sense here because likely is, it's definitely not going to be as big of a margin and as likely for Minnesota as Minnesota.
Also, Biden's vice presidential pick is also going to impact this place. Especially depends on who he picks. So this place is very unstable.
Absolutely.
And in a matter of weeks, everything changed here essentially, and in a lot of different areas. So we will see how Biden's VP pick will change this up.
Yeah, I'm told that Amy Klobuchar has essentially been kind of thrown out as the choice already because of the recent events. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's head to Wisconsin. Wisconsin will also swing more to the Democrats now because we have one of the biggest protests is in Milwaukee, which is in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. I personally think it's a tilt.
Yeah, but not by much, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably going to be close, but it's going to be a slight edge to the Democrats at the moment. We put this one as a toss-up before. I do think that the Democrats now have a slight edge because of the impact of the protests here. Let's head to now
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. All Pennsylvania, one, it's Joe Biden's home state. We also have a lot of big cities here. There's a decent African American population. For that reason, I do think Joe Biden will also perform well here. And I think one of the biggest reasons why Joe Biden will do better with the African American population now is that he's proposed a kind of plan for the officers that seems to be pretty popular at the moment. And he might be able to draw those African Americans and using that plan, especially with the current events. Mm-hmm. So in an area that might have a lot of African Americans there, I feel like more are going to turn out and vote for him. With that being said, I do think that Pennsylvania should be able to go to him in, it's more likely that it will go to him now than it was before.
Yeah, more on that plan. They're just going to basically ban the chokehold that killed George Floyd. Just a little bit of info. All right, yeah, North Carolina, we can move on to.
Yeah. Let's head to North Carolina. I'll come back to Maine All-State later. Eric, you want to talk about North Carolina?
Yeah, so as we know, North Carolina is kind of a battleground state, but just like in previous predictions, I think it leans more to the Republicans, not by much. It's a tilt margin.
I think it has changed now. Previously, we put this one as lean. I do think it has moved to a tilt margin due to the recent events. They do have protests in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a pretty big city in North Carolina, so that obviously will have an effect on the election.
Additionally, Donald Trump and Governor Roy Cooper, a Democrat, are clashing because they're debating over not holding the RNC there, and I think they're not holding it there anymore. So that's definitely gonna not bring as much Republican turnout as before to support him.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they're moving it now, but I know that they've canceled it. The National Convention for the Republicans was supposed to be in North Carolina, but that's been changed. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to head back to Maine All-State. Usually I put this as safe, but I've been thinking about it. I don't think that it's really that safe. I think it's going to be more of a likely, and the reason being that we have the more rural towns and neighborhoods in Maine. They're going to be more in the north, and that's kind of going to balance out those more urban towns at the south.
Okay.
And in 2016, the margin of victory for Trump in Maine's 2nd district was within the solid margin, which is pretty interesting to think about. And in 2016, the all-state margin was in a 2% margin, so that is lean. I don't think it's going to be that close again due to the events, but that's quite interesting to think about. So that's why I think I'm going to be shifting it more to the Democrats now. Let's head to Arizona now. What's interesting here, we talked with Ethan Ablagi about Arizona, is they do have a lot of Hispanics here. And it's possible that the Hispanics will support that cause, that Black Lives Matter movement, and it might also motivate them to go out to vote. That's definitely highly possible. So if we take that into account, I do think Joe Biden does have a slight edge here now. Usually we put this one as a toss-up, but think about how the past few days have affected the election. I do think Joe Biden can win the state, although it's going to be close, and although it's really anyone's game still, I do think there's a chance. And when you see that kind of slight advantage, that's when you know to put a state at tilt. So I think that kind of makes sense to me. I'll talk about Nebraska second, and then Eric, you can head to Florida now. Nebraska's 2nd district, as we've said in previous videos, this is the urban congressional district. We have the biggest city of Nebraska here, Omaha. So cities usually vote for the Democrat. Obama did win this district in 2008. So I don't think Joe Biden's going to win because Nebraska does have a lot of the Republicans here. I do think Donald Trump will be able to carry it, but I don't think there was much effect here. Some people put this one as tilt. I don't think that's too generous to the Democrats. I put this one as lean. All right, Eric, you want to head to Florida now?
Yeah, sure. So honestly, Florida is also going to be impacted here. Along with Arizona, Florida has quite the Hispanic demographic. And as a result of that, we don't think it's actually going to go to the tilt Republican margin that we always give it. We think it's going to go to the Democrats. As we said, the Hispanics do want to support the cause of Black Lives Matter, and this is going to make them, turn up to the polls more. So we do think this is going to be somewhere between tilts and lean Democratic.
Really? I would think more toss-up in tilt. I don't think it will impact it too much because, a tilt to lean on the other side is kind of a big jump. Personally, I would put this one between toss-up and tilt D. That's a debate, but if we had to characterize it, it's tilt D. I think that's the general characterization here. Yeah, very interesting. Tomorrow's episode, we'll be taking a look at the predicted markets, which is where people bet on, this election. Trump's stocks have completely fallen. We'll be taking a look at that tomorrow, and we'll look at the map tomorrow. But clearly, these past few days have had a huge impact on the presidential election. I'm going to leave Florida as toss-up because, honestly, if we had to characterize it, it would be tilt, but it's too close to call anyway, as Florida always is. But this is our map as of today. Thank you all so much for watching this episode. Biden has 289. Trump has 220. A little bit of number changes, but I do think Biden does. That's the same number that Biden had before. Just Trump's numbers are minus 29 here. But thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you like our videos, please hit the subscribe button. We'll see you in our next video tomorrow.
See ya.